Welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're joining us today because we're about to dive into something that literally revolutionizes the way we play and honestly watch tabletop role-playing games. We're talking about system mastery. I'm going to show you how intense pre-game character optimization doesn't just make a character hit harder, it actually transforms a scattered, heavy rulebook into a totally seamless cinematic performance. When you do the hard work before you even sit down at the table, you elevate the entire experience for everyone involved. Let's get right into it.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. First, the scattered rules problem. 2, documenting system mastery. 3, stacking aim and synergies. 4, simulated tactical combat. And finally, number 5, elevating audience experience.
Starting off with Section 1, the scattered rules problem. Together, you and friends create an exciting story of adventurers who confront perils. This quote, straight from the player's handbook, hits the nail on the head. This is the core goal of the game, right? Creating a memorable, free-flowing story together. It's supposed to be all about imagination and teamwork. But to get to that seamless story, well, you need an engine to drive it.
And here's where we run into a bit of a roadblock. There is a really stark contrast between the idealized vision of the game and the clunky reality of the rules. The idea is fast-paced cinematic action, but the reality? It's a patchwork of rule sets scattered across literally hundreds of pages. You've got combat rules in one chapter, class features in another, weapon mastery properties hidden way back in an appendix somewhere, and spells in a totally different book. This scattered information causes massive cognitive overload when you're actually trying to play. You end up having to pause the game to flip through pages, and let's be honest, that absolutely kills the pacing for everyone.
Picture this. Your characters are deeply engaged in this tense social interaction, bartering with a hag. That's the exact immersion we want, right? But suddenly, players have to pause to calculate complex mechanics on the fly. They're trying to figure out their saving throw DC or what bonus action they can actually use, and boom, it completely shatters that immersion. And if you're part of an audience watching a live play game, there is no way around it. Nothing drains the entertainment value faster than watching players sit in silent confusion trying to do math.
Moving on to Section 2. Documenting system mastery. Now, what's really interesting about this is our character case study, Eamon. Meet Eamon. He's a highly optimized Githyanki fighter and monk multiclass. Specifically, he's a battle master and a warrior of the elements. He is going to be our ultimate example of extreme optimization today. Because Eamon isn't just a character, he is a finely tuned engine. And to build an engine like that, you need data. A lot of it. We're talking over 30 pages of meticulous documentation just to map out the complete mastery of this single character. That's right, over 30 pages. But here's the payoff. By organizing every single permutation of his abilities completely outside of actual gameplay, Eamon can actually outperform much higher level characters. Why? Because his action economy is totally and completely optimized.
By distilling all of that massive documentation down into a custom reference sheet, Eamon's entire arsenal becomes instantly accessible. This means visually organizing spell slots, battle master maneuvers, and focus points onto a single page. But it also goes way beyond just combat. This documentation charts out very specific skill combinations. It lists exact procedures for the discovery and disarming of traps, and even outlines the tactical use of his adventure gear to help allies in a pinch. You don't have to look up what your abilities do anymore. You've basically built a control panel for flawless gameplay that just wipes out cognitive load at the table.
That brings us to Section 3, stacking aim and synergies.
Okay, so effectively managing dual resource pools is the absolute heart of this character synergy. On one side of the coin, you have the fighter's superiority dice, which fuel those tactical combat maneuvers like precision attack and riposte. On the other side, the monk's focus points power his elemental strikes, agility, and things like deflect attacks. You never, ever want these resources competing for the same action, so you pre-calculate them. You plan it out so they perfectly complement each other. And that synergy extends directly into his gear. Eamon utilizes an incredibly specific loadout. We're talking the quarterstaff of the acrobat, an energy bow, and a matched pair of daggers of return. Now, when you pair these items with the Nick weapon mastery, the tavern brawler feat, and the archery fighting style, wow, these choices instantly open up complex tactical sequences. For example, thanks to the Nick mastery, Eamon can throw his daggers of return as part of the exact same attack action. He doesn't lose his precious bonus action to do it. That leaves his bonus action totally wide open to use a focus point for a flurry of blows. So the crucial point here is something we call stacking. Stacking is the practice of layering multiple distinct class features, feats, and magical items simultaneously to create an exponential advantage. It's like a giant puzzle coming together perfectly. For example, Amon uses the Tavern Brawler feat to push a target 5 feet away on an unarmed strike, no saving throw required. He then stacks that seamlessly with his elemental strikes, which force a strength saving throw to move the target an additional 10 feet. That is a massive, exponential tactical advantage right there. Merging the calculating, precise strategy of the Battlemaster with the raw, chaotic energy of the elements creates an absolute powerhouse on the battlefield. Think about it, combining a fighter maneuver like Riposte with elemental attunement, which, by the way, gives Amon's unarmed strikes a 15-foot reach and elemental damage, transforms a standard reaction into a devastating localized elemental event. Let's look at this in practice in Section 4, Simulated Tactical Combat. I want you to set the stage in your mind for a second. Amon is facing off against a deadly mind flare, or maybe a rival Gift Sarai. In this visceral, high-stakes combat encounter, there is simply no time to check the rulebook. Hesitation means certain death. The player has to act immediately. Now, because of system mastery, the player doesn't just sit there and say, I attacked twice. No way. They deploy a pre-documented sequence. Take the centerline elemental piston sequence, for example. First, they lead with a Wing Chun punch to transmit force. Second, they follow up with a Hanuman strike using explosive leg power. And finally, they execute a Pangoji log elbow lock to create a hyper-extending lever. Because they've pre-documented all the math and the rules, the player's free to vividly describe this awesome micro-narrative of combat. They aren't crunching numbers, they are literally directing an action movie.
And you know, it's not just for attacking either. Even healing and recovery are stacked into a pre-planned sequence, like the Nova Regenerate protocol. In one smooth sequence, Amon can add an ambush superiority die to his initiative, trigger uncanny metabolism to heal HP and restore focus points, use a bonus action for Second Wind to heal another 1d10 plus his fighter level, and still unleash a flurry of blows packed with elemental damage. This completely removes any tableside hesitation. The player just declares the Nova Regenerate sequence and executes it flawlessly.
When you visualize these playstyles, the results are just undeniable. In standard table play, cognitive load is incredibly high, and your in-game output is pretty low because, well, you're bogged down trying to remember the rules. But with system-mastered play, that cognitive load drops to near zero, and the output just skyrockets. Doing the math beforehand allows Amon to flawlessly use a reaction to deflect attacks, reduce the incoming damage by 7 to 17 points, redirect that damage, and push the enemy without even breaking a sweat. Section 5. Elevating Audience Experience.
Let's consider the difference this makes at the table, especially for live play. The slow player pauses the narrative, flips through rulebooks, and completely breaks audience immersion. But the mastered player? They execute beautiful cinematic sequences instantly. They maintain that crucial narrative momentum. So as you can see, system mastery isn't just a tactical advantage for the player. It is an absolute gift to the audience watching the game. It makes the entire show infinitely more watchable and engaging.
Let's look at one final quote from the source text. Avoid character choices that ruin the fun of the other players. Choose actions that delight you and your friends. I love this because smooth, fast, and highly descriptive gameplay directly delights everyone sitting at the table. It honors the time of the Dungeon Master, it respects your fellow players, and it completely thrills the viewers at home. So I want to leave you with this provocative thought. Are you playing the game at the table, or are you preparing for the performance before you even sit down? System Mastery asks us to really rethink how we approach the mechanics of our favorite games. By moving all that heavy lifting to our prep time, we open the door to a truly seamless, unforgettable story. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I hope this inspires you to look at your character sheet in a whole new light.